All right.
I mean, in the wise words of our Lord and Savior, Lil Pump, let's get it, my dudes.
Word.
Yeah.
Yo, I don't know any of that.
As Tyler would say, aloha and welcome to the casual interview of Tyler. Hi, Tyler.
Greetings, Koopalings.
How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic now that I'm here. Wait, what's up with these chains on my arms?
Yeah.
Why am I strapped to this chair?
Kind of,
You know
yeah.
what?
Who
Don't
are
worry
these
about it.
people?
Exactly.
Don't worry about it too much, Tyler. Just sit back.
It feels kind of snug.
We're gonna ask you some questions, and all you got to do is answer them. Is that? Do you think we can do that?
Is that a tire rod over there?
It's
Don't
very
worry
easy,
about it.
Tyler.
Just look at me.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Nick, I thought you said you wanted to do an interview, buddy.
Yeah, we're doing.
I'll tell you the pin to my locker room back in high school days if you want to look at my speedos.
Don't just sit back, relax. I'm gonna ask you a few questions.
Yep, you've already administered the drugs, so you're all good to go.
Don't worry about that car battery with the things. Just don't worry about that noise. Don't worry about the chainsaw in the background. Just how about you start by telling us your blood type?
My blood type. Now, Nick, why would you need that? That's a weird question. Why would you ask anybody a question like that?
Is your
Mind
liver
you.
damaged?
Mind you, I've been asked that question myself.
Oh, Cam, why did he ask him that question, man?
Oh no, it wasn't me.
Yeah, man,
Wasn't me.
Cam's just hanging out. He's just scoping the perimeter, making sure that we don't get any uninvited visitors.
Everything's safe.
yes.
Everything's
Okay.
safe and
It's a little bit
secure.
of a private party.
My blood type is, I believe, the last I've checked, it might have changed. O positive.
O positive. I have no idea what that means, but that's fantastic.
Congratulations.
The O essentially means I can pretty much give, I believe, to everybody. But the positive antigen means I can only give to people. No, I don't remember. Yeah, that's a
That's
very
fine.
good question. I thought I could deliver to everybody that had a positive antigen, but I can only specifically get O positive back. Like I was like the universal donor with positive antigens. By the way, O positive, I think.
Okay. O positive. All right. And so I have a list of questions here, and I tend to like going off them in order. So, how old are you, Tyler? Tell us about yourself. These are some basic questions, basic background questions about yourself.
I am 27 years old. I was born on February 25th, 1991, for those who want to hack my Facebook account. So there's that for you. My mother's maiden name is, actually, I don't think that's listed, so Pinto as well. So, social security number, though, hands off, mother. I can't say that word.
So you're 27. When and where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised actually in the city that I'm in right now. Technically, I'm in the outskirts in a kind of like a side city, but I was born and raised in Bay City, Michigan. Again, you're one step closer to my Facebook account. Congratulations. It's yours at this point. Please post more than me. Yes, I was born and raised in Bay City, Michigan, which, it's a small town, population of 32,000. It's about 20 to 30 minutes just north of Saginaw, for those who are loving that one, and about maybe 40 to 50 minutes north of Flint, which is a little bit more popular town for various reasons.
Yeah.
I
So
heard water tastes great there.
yeah, so I'm not that great on American geography, but I have heard of Flint.
Ooh,
So,
good.
yeah.
I know what to quiz you next then.
So
We're going to get you
Michigan.
national citizenship through the testing of us. We'll make you a better American than we ever are.
Oh man.
I would rather not. Thank you
Oh,
very much.
I can't blame you. I
I'm
can't
happy
blame you.
being a Canadian, or eventually becoming Canadian. Anyways. So a question outside of the list. Born and grew up around Bay City.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of traveling, moving around when you were younger, college, whatever? Or
Yes and no. I did live at one point outside of my city. It's ironic because I've never lived in a different city besides Bay City in Michigan, but I have moved to the point where I just completely shot out in the middle of nowhere. Usually it was in Indiana specifically. I used to live with my father. My father had split up with my mom when I was 2 years old, and I would bounce between the two of them, and he would live in a town called Newcastle, Indiana, which
Okay.
is a spitwad of a city to the northeast of Indianapolis. But I lived with them there during like my let's see, I think 5th and 6th grade, I believe. And then another point, no, I think that was it. There's a couple of times between that age, like between the ages 10 and 12, I would live with them for like a year at a time, and that bouncing. Other than that, the only other time I've actually like traveled the world and all the other stuff was when I was an over-the-road truck driver, where I traveled across most of the continental United States. So
Right.
I've seen almost every state in the United States besides Alaska, Hawaii, and for some godforsaken reason, Florida. They would never send me there. It's like no oranges today.
And they sent you to Rhode Island?
They have sent me to the Rhode Island.
Huh.
I've driven by there. Yeah.
I would wager
prices
Rhode
are
Island's
vicious
better
there.
than Florida, or
Yeah,
at
but it's
least
so
a
small,
much better driving experience.
You can't fit the truck inside of Rhode Island, so it's
Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember like when I passed through Rhode Island, because my geography is all sorts of wrong. I feel like I went to there and then I was heading towards Boston.
Mhm.
So I feel like that was a drive-through state for me, and it was all of 30 minutes. And I think what happened was they canceled the load. So I stopped at like a truck stop at the very end of the interstate towards Massachusetts, and I just called it there and took like a 34-hour break, and that's the last time I've seen Rhode Island. Like honestly, I felt like Kurt Schilling was waving me out. So
Yeah.
that's the last time I thought about that place.
So we'll get back to your parents in a bit because you mentioned them, but let's start with some other basic ones. What's your favorite kind of food?
My favorite kind of food, and this is weird because my family's considered Italian, but we don't actually know. It was like a mystery breed.
Right.
And again, I'm trying to allude to the reasons why I like it so much. Well, I'll just say the answer: pizza. I love pizza, and I love anything that's bread-based for the most part.
Right.
Like people in prison, they say bread and water is the nightmare. It's like, I'll take bread. I don't even need butter. Like if I can put some mustard right in the dead center of that thing, I'll be happy. But then suddenly they're like, oh, we'll put something, stuff in this bread for you. I'm like, what kind of stuff? Tomatoes. Oh, I like tomatoes. Tomato paste. I'll take it. Cheese. Oh. And it's like, oh, anything else you want? Even pineapple? Yes, certainly do it. And I'm like,
Meat.
wow, devil's fruit.
I mean, at that point, it's kind of like, well, as long as I'm not paying for it, and if it was offered to me for free, I'll eat just about anything. So, pizza is actually not my favorite food. I can't stand pizza, at least North American pizza.
I
give me
can
some
totally
like
respect that too.
rustic, like Italian pizza.
Okay, now I don't even know what Italian pizza would technically be at this point, because like the biggest things I know is thin crust. For those who like to live on the East Coast, typically that's a bigger thing. Or near my area, it's more deep dish. Because thanks to Chicago and all that patronage for that. But for me, I was always a good deep dish kind of guy because I like to hold the pizza up and not looking like a floppy wiener in my hand because I overloaded it with toppings. Now, if I have to eat it with the fork and whatnot because it's thin crust, that's fine. That makes it worth it anyways. But like it has to have some kind of thickness to it, like be able to support itself if I fold it inwards a little bit.
Right. Okay, so that's food. Favorite color?
Favorite color. When I was a child, it was blue. Up until about 8-10 years old, it caused a lot of fights because whenever my mom took me and my sister and I to the bank, my grandma used to work there, and she's like, "Hey, what kind of suckers would you like today?" Because they'd give away those dum-dums. And my sister liked blue because I liked blue. I think she liked purple at one point, but eventually she converted into a blue lover too. And so me and her would fight for the blue suckers because God forbid there was only one able to be given out. Otherwise, you'd run them dry. But something weird happened. There was a time where I met a friend named Grant, and he introduced me to the concept of this game called The Legend of Zelda. Right. And he said his favorite color is green, and he showed me why, and he showed me this cool little character named Link. And I would say about 2 months of experiencing Zelda, I agreed with them. I thought green was a fantastic color. So to this day, green is my favorite color because I like a nice forest green.
Okay. So now we're gonna go back to your parents.
Oh boy!
Tell me about your parents really quick, or in as much detail as you wish to.
Man, I can write you a book about this. Are you sure? My dark past.
A few minutes each about your each one of your parents, or together collectively, whatever Go for it.
Sure. Let's see. For the most part, my parents were together. They conceived me at a beautiful hotel known as the Pink Flamingo Hotel to the song Three Dog Nights, Joy to the World. Great song, by the way. They were kind enough to let me know this without my acceptance. Like I didn't want to hear this, but they're happy to know. Now I get to pass on the good word. When they tried living together because they were, I think around 20, 21 years old, They tried living together. It didn't quite work out. They split apart. My mom started living with my grandma. And for the most part, I didn't see my dad for a good portion of my life up until like I was 6 or 7 years old. He was that kind of guy, tried to stay in the life, but let's, be real. He had better things to do. And whenever my mom struggled financially, I would live with my father, and he would do good, but he was also making ends meet on his own end, plus some by catering illicit drugs, I guess you could say. Well, he was a drug dealer. And, that was a fantastic, experience, being the son of a drug dealer, lord of a certain area. I won't say any certain areas, but I already named a city in Indiana, so you do what you will there. But for the most part, I lived with my grandmother actually up until end of middle school up to high school, and they're what I consider my true parental figures, because my mom had a huge dysfunction with society. She was clinically depressed. She was a huge alcoholic. She stopped taking care of me and my sister. And when my sister's father came into the picture, because I'm a half brother, she wanted to take me out of the picture, or take us out of Bay City again, and just go off into the boonies and live with this guy after meeting him for the first time in about 13, 14 years. And within 2 weeks, she wanted to just drop everything and live with him. And I couldn't handle that, because I had a rough setting with my father, because being who he is, plus, he was not the nicest character. He was physically abusive. I did not want to go with this random guy that looked like this gruff figure that was ready to, lay fists anytime somebody, smart talked him. And it was a rough week when my uncle came to visit my mom's house one day to find it completely empty, except for my stuff in my room and some cans of food, because I was so adamant on refusing to leave that she freaking left me there. And it caused a huge point in my relationship with my mother that I don't like calling her mom anymore, because I realized that I just didn't like talking to her anymore. She did a thing to me that felt like it was so scarring that I felt like I could never forgive her. And so when my grandma took over, she was the next best thing to the close family member I could ever ask for. And eventually, when I hit 18, my mom and dad came back together. So after about 16 years of being apart, they finally got back together and got married. So, they had their amazing after by the time I hit an adult. And things are kind of estranged for us, because we aren't very close to each other. And every time we do, the relationship usually turns toxic after about 4 or 5 months, because I like to have my privacy. But at the same time, they like to plan things every single weekend, and it becomes overbearing. And I try to work with them to strike a deal or something. But anytime I don't do every single thing with them, it's like, oh, you don't love us enough and all that stuff. And it went awry really quickly. Right. And like to this day, I just wrapped up a 2-year agreement with them. Like, hey, we can't talk to each other like this anymore. And after my wedding this year, I'm starting to talk with them more. I'm trying to work things out with them, and I'm on speaking terms with them. So we're not Facebook officially. I haven't unblocked my mother from Facebook. So we're not that quite far.
That's
yet.
when it's real. Yeah,
that's when it's real.
I mean, it sounds like at the end they're just trying to overcompensate for all the time lost, and maybe they've realized all the quote unquote bad things they've done, but then they're still making it about themselves. They've somehow successfully managed to make it about themselves.
Well, I mean, they got to focus on themselves as people. I got to respect that. But at the same time, it feels like they're trying to treat me like I'm still 14 to 15. And I'm still part of the circle here. And it's like, I'm a grown adult with my own wife now. It's like, you got to treat me as a separate circle that you want to, bounce together every now and then. Why aren't you going to school still or some crap?
Right. No, yeah. And I feel like once you lose that right as a parent, you don't automatically get it back. Like if you do something like messed up to the point that your mom did, she's lost her right as a parent, and now she's trying to act as a parent, but she doesn't it's like trust. It just doesn't come back like snap fingers.
Yep. I think it definitely all depends on what you want to do, but like as far as I'm concerned, that'd be a situation where it's not worth your time.
No.
Like if it were me, I'd be like, they're not worth my time.
Like I pretty much set that in stone with me during the high school days. High school specifically, I had a real struggle with the fact that I tell myself my mom abandoned me, but that's such a harsh word and phrase in my head that it makes me bitter.
Right.
And so I tell myself instead, my mom chose what she thought was best for her, but she made the mistake of not considering me. It sounds rough, but it's not nearly as bad. I know that sounds depressing, but
words have a lot of power, and so the more you can like refactor them to make sure that you can carry yourself forward in the best manner is the best way to deal with things.
I guess the problem with this whole situation, like during high school specifically, when I was living with my grandma, I considered myself the protector of the family because my father was never there. When my mom had boyfriends, they're active drug users or drunks, and they would get violent during the thing because my mom didn't want to drop her panties at every given moment, and suddenly they're drunk and violent. And me being like 6 feet tall at age 14, I was still pretty, intimidating looking for a young guy. And I always, drove them out. I would lift them and throw them out because oddly enough, they're actually shorter than me. And once that happened where my mom, was an hour and a half away, I couldn't do anything if something happened. And my mom, she likes to play the victim. And,
Right.
I get that from her too, admittedly. And she would tell me something happened up there. My sister talked back to her father, and the father hit her or something like that. And my mom might have gotten in the fight with my stepdad, or whatever you want to call him, my sister's father. I never really called him a stepdad. They never got married, but I don't know. And it was so bad, it was psychologically damaging to me that, and this is screwed up. Now when I mention it nowadays, I told myself that if my mom and my sister were gonna be in pain and there was nothing I could do about it, I should be in pain too. And that's when in high school I started doing self-affliction with burning and cutting myself. And obviously I'm not proud of that to this day, but it's just a fact that, hey, I used to do self-mutilation to myself every time I heard and hit extreme stress levels, finding out that my mom and my sister caused me a lot of problems. Well, they didn't cause me problems. They had a lot of problems, and they let me know in such a way that I had no way of stopping this. I tried calling the police once on them, and the case turned out to get dropped fairly quickly because my mom was one of those, oh, but I still love him, he didn't mean to do anything, I just needed somebody to talk to about it kind of situation. And it's like, and so now I got scars. I got scars on my hands. I got scars on my legs. I got burn marks that'll never leave. And I get to look at them every single day. They remind me of the mental anguish I put myself through. Not them specifically. I put myself through it. I own up to that mistake. They might have put me through the stress, but I'm the one that made the decision, even if I was some young weeaboo son of a gun that just edgy anime wasn't enough for me. I gotta tear myself up. And I know it gets dark. It gets dark, man. I always joke about my dark past and all that stuff, but
well, I mean, in terms of the darkness, we do have to ask the question, of course. At what point did you activate?
Oh, and we've lost Cam.
Wow, that is perfect timing. The one
That's the first time it's ever. Yeah, that's the first time it's ever happened.
I banish you to a shadow realm.
Right. So I'll wait for him to come back and ask his question again. But tell us about your sister. Like, just really brief. Like, do you guys have like a good
sister
relationship?
or sister to this day?
Like sister to this day. Like, do you guys have a good relationship or like?
Yes. That is one thing. And my sister,
There we go.
The worst
Okay.
possible timing. Oh my god.
I know, right? Okay. I thought he disappeared again. I was like,
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick has a question lined up, but you had one first. What's up, Cam?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna ask though, considering the darkness, at what point did you awaken your Mangekyo Sharingan?
Are you referring to the Facebook image that I had created?
No, just in general, in real life. When did you activate it?
It's very unfortunate. Oh, maybe not for them. I did not kill either of my best friends.
Darn.
Yeah, but
I know, right?
we know now that it wasn't the death. It wasn't like the act of killing. It was the emotional turmoil from the death of somebody close to you that actually activates
It's the death of a
Mangekyo
relationship.
Sharingan.
The curse of love or hate. I forget what it is. It's one of the two or something like that.
Oh, jeez.
No.
You were talking about, asking about my sister. Right now, like, I'm 27. She is 25, I believe. 24, 25. She's doing good, and she's told me this, straight up. I actually talked with her a couple of days ago about this. she said, you know, out of all the family member that has treated me wrong, you are passive. Well, she's, you know, telling me this, Tyler, you are passive aggressive about your anger with me, but you have not flat out tried to insult me. You have not flat out told me that, you know, that I'm, you know, something I can't be. And she like, you know, like, you never called me the B word. You've never called me the C word, at least not to my face. And I was like, well, you know, every time I drive away, I whisper it with the window down. But she's like, you always treated me with respect. And even when I treated you like crap, I'm like, well, Amber, you're fan. Well, I mean, it's not like
your family thing. It's more you're my sister, and
like you did nothing to me wrong. And like I might have some bitterness that I can hold towards my mom and my dad to some extent. But it's not like you kind of flipped me out, you know, or flipped me off on the way out to go see your dad or anything like that. So it's like, you know, we grew up together, and, you know, we play Mario Kart, and we talk about Zelda and stuff like that to this day. And, you know, she's doing fine, and we have a good relationship together. That's so good. You know, I would say between her and my grandmother, probably the strongest family ties that I have, besides, of course, my wife. So, you know.
Yeah, which was going to be my next question. You're married. Tell us about your partner. How'd you guys you know, become married?
Okay,
neat is the word I think you might be looking for, but
that might be the word. But.
So some people kind of guffaw or get confused or amazed by this, but I did meet my wife through an online service. Problem is, though, it wasn't like Tinder or anything like that. It was a website called myyearbook.com. It eventually became known as meetme.com. It's essentially kind of like a ye olde version of Tinder, version of Facebook, to where, you know, everything was casted in black fonts and all that, or black and red fonts. And when, you know, we're gonna be cool over here, like blue and white with Facebook, we're gonna make you look awesome. You can put your coolest stuff up here. And so me trying to get my D wet one day in like 2013, 2014, okay. I'm typing up a storm. I'm prowling through the internet trying to find my mate. And I come across this lady named Amanda. And I was 2 years out of high school. I finally got myself into a functioning job after being homeless and jobless for some time. I wasn't homeless. I was living with my best friend for a while, but, you know, I didn't have my own place I was paying rent for. But I had my own place. I was paying rent and all that stuff. I decided, you know, maybe it's time to get a social status change. And I met her on this website, and the first thing I saw was she's Native American. I'm like, you don't see that every day. You know, I check, and she's like, oh, she's Ojibwe. I'm like, oh, wow. I went to CMU for 2 years, and I took Native American history. I know what Ojibwe means. That's a Chippewa. And it's like, you know, I contact her, and, you know, we talk for a little bit. I was like, by the way, I saw that you're Ojibwe. And I say, Bonjour, Boozhoo, which means hello in Ojibwe. And that was like the immediate, like, she's told me this, you know, years later, that was her panty dropper line, you know, that I gave her. And we talk, and, you know, she was fascinated that I actually knew 3 words of a dead language that, you know, she was totally a part of. And I think one night after like it was like 2 a.m, I talked with her, and she's like, hey, want to go get some Taco Bell, you know, before they close? So we meet up 2 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I have I wrote a song for our anniversary. It's a poorly written song and all that stuff, but it's still there. It exists about us meeting up at Taco Bell. And she commented about the parking lot at Kroger's being very dark across the street if we want to hang out over there. And that was a scary flag for me. Like, hey, we just met. You know, I started sweating. I'm like, oh man, she wants to take this a little far. You know, I'd rather have underpaid employees, you know, with poor meat quality stare at me than you know, sit out there in the dark when you. What happens if I turn into a body? Anyways, we officially like realized that we're starting the date because there was one night, got out of a 3rd shift with my gas station job where I became a truck driver. Got trash talked a lot. I realized it was a bad night, and I was gonna, you know, start my real night, which was 5 a.m. with a nice little fifth of Black Velvet. And for those who don't know, Black Velvet is probably one of the lowest grossing spiced rums you could ever think of. Like, it is atrociously bad and very, very cheap and effective.
It sounds terrible. The name itself makes it sound terrible.
Oh yeah. So I do this. You know, it's about 7 o'clock by the time I get home in the morning. And Amanda tells me, don't drink alone. Just come over later in the afternoon, get some sleep. You got the night off. Come hang over and you can drink with me and my roommates. So that happens. I go over there, and we all sit on the couch. Like, she had a roommate, which is again turns into one of my best friends to this day, David. Because when I first met him, I was like, I need to have your blessing to hang out with this lady. And for some reason, he got such a freaking kick about that. Like, even like at the wedding, he's like, the first thing he said, he wanted, to have a blessing. 1 second. And so we all sit down. I have this polo cup. I fill it up to the brim with straight liquor. I'd probably not to the brim. I'd say about half to 2/3 full. I'm not going to over exaggerate. I'd probably kill myself. Flip a coin, decide if I drink it or not, or wait half an hour. Heads, I drink it. Tails, I don't. I get a heads. I drink it.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. I wait a half hour, get a nice buzz going on because I took it straight. Flip it again, get a heads. I drink it. I'm sitting there, man. By this point, I'm about halfway through the bottle in the course of an hour, which, somebody who hasn't eaten yet, haven't drank that much in a while.
Exhausted, had a crappy day. It's not exactly a recipe for a good night or a good morning.
Flip a coin again.
Of course you do.
Sorry, I got an alarm letting me know that it's 1:35. What the hell?
1:35.
I know, right? Podcast soon. I flip the coin a third time. I get a head. I put the cup up to my lips, and that is the last thing I remember for the very rest of the night. When I woke up, and mind you, I've only met this girl, Amanda, for about, twice in my life. I wake up face first in her bed, completely in my clothes, wrapped around in a blanket, with her sleeping as far away from me as she can, on the other side of the bed with the blanket wrapped around her. And I'm like, oh no. And I wake up, she wakes up immediately because apparently she had a rough night. I didn't know why. I slept great. At least I told myself. And she detailed to me what exactly happened. After finishing that third cup, I started going into nonsense gibberish and then started detailing and doing a Steve Irwin impersonation of National Geographic because we were watching that through Netflix. Then sometime there was some commercial or something like that. No, it wasn't a commercial. Some kind of dance song came up, maybe because they played it or something like that. And then I immediately started drunk dancing.
Of course you did.
And then I stood up, walked straight into her room, and then just face planted into her bed. In the middle of her bed. She could not move me. She couldn't drag me up. And they realized that the furthest they were going to get me was the floor. They were not going to get me up to the couch. So her and the roommate had dragged me over to the side of the bed and they wrapped me around. And then she didn't want to sleep on the couch. So she said, fuck it. And she slept on the other side of the bed. Yeah, I know, right?
We've all made that mistake now.
Yep. 2 hours later, she heard me, and she was like, oh no. Got me upright. I'm still stone cold drunk, still don't remember this. Had to go to the bathroom. I had apparently, and she reminds me of this to this day, puked all over her panda bucket and had such a horrible splashback of puke that it hit her hair and everything.
Of course.
And so, realizing all this happened, she went into very descriptive detail. Just, she had to drive me back home because I didn't have a car at the time. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did this on our second time together. And in my head, it's like, I'm not seeing this lady ever again. I done goofed. I'm about to be single for another 5 years. And, she drops me off. She's like, it's okay. We don't talk for about 3 days. And she texts me. She's like, hey, do you want to hang out again? No booze this time, though. And I realized she was the one.
Jesus.
And after that, I guess another very shorter story. Her and I agreed that we could not kiss because we realized, we're actually going to come in relation. We could not kiss until she beat her first Zelda game. And so we didn't kiss until she beat Twilight Princess.
Nice. I respect that.
And, every single time I would work at the gas station. And, my biggest thing, I love to watch her defeat a Zelda boss. But then, she got up to the Zelda boss and I had to go to work and, a 4-hour shift. And I'm like, now, Amanda, don't play. You can't beat this boss unless I'm there. And then I go to the work and 2 hours later, I get a text and I read it. I'm sorry. No. You did it without me, did you? Like, yes. Maybe another one too. No. And so it's like, I got a picture of her giving a thumbs up over the, thank you for playing, or DN. And to that day, I think that's why we bonded so well, is because we played Zelda together. And,
right.
Oh, yeah. All right.
That kid is How I Met Your Mother.
Yes. Not yet, but quite. We're getting there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna skip into some of the more serious ones that I had.
Goof off if you want. We got majestic
like
15
yeah.
minutes.
No, I like to have them at the end too.
That's
because
like one more story.
Yeah.
I used to have these questions as now I'm rambling as an interview question. Anyways, so except for the podcast and the Twitch stuff, and you're currently a truck driver or still a truck. See, I'm terrible with.
I mean, the word "still" and "currently" they're synonymous to me, so you're on the right track, Nick.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
I'm just terrible with like job titles. I didn't learn what my cousin's master was in
Transportation specialist. Get the
until he was graduating, and they said it on stage, and I'm like, oh, so that's what his master's degree was in.
I'm a truck driver. Yes.
Okay. So any like ambitions, any dreams, anything that you want to do that you're working towards or just haven't figured out how to get there yet?
I mean, a lot of the dreams and ambitions I have, I'm acting on. There's a couple I got to put to the side just because, time. I can't put all my things into, multiple things because I got to give up one if I want to do the other. A good example is I used to be a musician back in high school. I used to play brass instruments, most notably the baritone.
Okay.
And I really loved the baritone, the euphonium. Teacher had really put me hard on the tuba because I was the only person that was able to play the tuba. Stupid easy. And I hated that because I love being the melodic, getting the solo every now and then. But it's like, her, the tuba goes bum, bum, bum. And it's like, oh, it's just end me now. You want me to play a solid note for 20 seconds straight? Great. Why am I here? Just play that on a recording or something. And so I had bought a baritone. There's a baritone in my house I got from a Goodwill auction. Fun fact, there's actually auctions through Goodwill online. Thought that was cool. And so I bought a baritone. I want to, play that and get back into it. Maybe do some amateur symphonies in the local area. Beyond that, though, no, it's pretty much podcasting, gaming, and of course, now that I'm married, we are now discussing me having a more solid job now. I'm on the next socially accepted step of pushing towards fatherhood. So
right.
Yeah, that's the next big thing because, let's be real. Podcasting, gaming, and all that stuff, it's a fun ambition, but
it's like with the music industry. It's 1 in 100 chance or whatever that you can actually make a proper living off. So you have to be smart about it and then make decisions accordingly.
Oh yeah, I mean, I never intended to become a professional gamer or a podcaster or anything like that, but I do like the idea of having my voice heard by the people that want to hear it. And the idea of being a father is scary because, as I'm sure you can guess, my parental figures were very bad subjects to study on how to do that. Because, my wife apparently thinks it's a terrible idea if your child is bad to put it into the dog crate. Well, I thought it was a great idea.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to discipline them, like you had
put them in the dog crate, right?
Somehow.
Don't put them in the dog crate.
I'm gonna say, as long as you leave a bowl of water in there, it's not like they're gonna die.
I mean, water is essential. Like anybody can survive for about 30 days as long as they have water.
And if they stink, then you can just hose them through the dog crate. Jeez.
If you have a question, Tyler, just Google it.
True. It's always going to start with, as a father, should I blame?
There you go. You can't go wrong that way.
I'm going to be the naughty side of the don't do this parenting meme. When fueling, leave your baby in the back seat. Do. When fueling, don't let the baby fuel the car. Don't.
Okay, so that's that. Podcasting. How did podcasting happen? I know you've been on different projects before Casual Master Quest, but I don't think I've ever asked how you got started into podcasting.
Okay, so as a truck driver, I have a lot of hours in the day to where, especially over the road days, where I would have nothing but the open road in front of me, no one to talk to, and I had people to talk to, but sometimes you just don't want to talk to people for hours at a time. It drives you wild because the only people that yeah, I know, right? The only people that are dedicated to doing something like that in my close inner group was other truck drivers who just wanted to complain about how bad the roads are. It's like, I don't need to know that. I already know already. My wife, who hated it more than an hour because she wanted to do her own stuff, but she wanted to be, a dedicated relation with me, and my parents. And boy, do they love talking. 4 hours is a minimum for them. It's like, I can't handle this. I got to pee sometime here. Oh, you can stay on the phone. Just mute me. No.
God.
So I decided that the next best thing is radio. Well, if I'm driving 600 miles a day, radio stations change. That's no good. So I needed to find an internet radio. Well, the next best thing was, instead of like Spotify or Pandora or whatnot, was podcasts.
Right.
And so I discovered that, why happens if there's a podcast about stuff I love? I love video games because that's my favorite thing to do when I come home every other weekend. So I started listening to a podcast called Giant Bomb, or the Giant Bombcast. Obviously, they're a big name nowadays, but I had started listening to them in like 2014, and over the course of like 2 years, caught up from them from like 2008 all the way up to current day. They have hundreds. I'm guessing they're probably pushing like 600, 700 episodes right now. And I would just listen to them, from like 5 years prior, and I was just so into it because they're such great personalities. I didn't care if they were talking about the PlayStation 3 at the time. And it's like, it's not relevant, but sure, they're funny and they're witty, and I enjoyed it. It's like, you know what? This guy kind of reminds me of how I talk with my best friend Brandon, and it's like they're so comfortable and close, and they just have witty commentary. And suddenly, before I know it, I contacted my best friend. I was like, "You want to do a podcast? You want to talk about video games?" And he's like, "Well, you do realize that video games is probably one of the most broadly covered podcast subject, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're going to be the best." And he was like, "Sure, okay." Yep. So we started together. We find random friends we can add as a third wheel. Before we knew it, though, friends didn't want to come back because they were sick of talking about video games with us. So I dragged my fiance at the time into it, and so the three of us started doing podcasting together, where we talk about video games that we played throughout the day. And that's how Super Goon Squad became started. And we realized we love playing video games, but we also got sick of talking about the same stuff over and over because we didn't buy new games. And so we mixed it up once every
I know what that's like.
I know. But like there was a point where we all talked about nothing but Breath of the Wild for like 2 months. It was bad. Again, Destiny 2. I'm sure Destiny 2 curse.
Okay. Yeah, okay, but see, at least now I could talk about Destiny 2 for 2 months because there's content. So I can only imagine like how much you can do with Breath of the Wild, because it's like minus DLCs. Like I'm sure you could do a lot. Okay, I'm sure you could do at least a good solid 4 episodes about Breath of the Wild. But like for a whole 2 months and beyond, like how much could you like milk it? But that's cool. No, like you sort of filled like a need or a void, and then sort of just went on from there.
My best friend had moved out of the house. We were no longer roommates, and he had his own house. Like he bought a house in Ohio, and with that dedication to getting this house into a fixer-upper, finding his own job and all that stuff, he was not able to do the podcast anymore. The wife and I kind of looked at each other and was like, "I don't want to do it with you. I don't want to do it with you." And so Super Goon Squad just suddenly went on infinite hiatus.
Right. Yeah. No, that's understandable.
And I realized that I wanted to do this sooner or later, but I kind of put it on the backside. And then just one day I started to post about Legend of Zelda, and some random group called Play Some Video Games, some robot program through Twitter, liked and retweeted me. I'm like, the heck? You're going to search anytime I talk about a Zelda tag or something like that? And looked at them, talked with them, and like, hey, you guys do podcasting? And they're like, yep. You need a podcaster? And they started rubbing their hands together like, we got another one. And before I knew, I was part of PSVG for about all of 6 months, and then I got booted. So whoops.
Yeah, and then now we're doing this. Hey guys, this is Casual Master Quest. Hi.
Master Quest 5, guys, come on.
Those are the main like serious questions I had, because we've talked about favorite video game series, and you sort of already touched upon
Metroid
side projects, and sure, I believe that. All right, and so I'm just gonna close up with some of my favorite questions. What's your favorite anime?
My favorite anime is TDGL. Tapantengen Gurren Lagann. Oh wait,
stop.
No.
Stop. Fine, I have a question for you, Tyler.
For the animation, not the golden one, but
hey, Tyler, what's your favorite console of all time? And you can't legally say anything other than the Vita. What's your answer?
Oh man.
Well, I guess Tyler's just gonna die.
My favorite anime, I told Cam this, and he can charade and mock it all he wants. I said Code Geass for a while. I'm trying to think, because there's a couple of good animes I would love watching every single day. I'm just trying to think of which one I would love the most. Like, what is one that I could watch multiple times? Because to me, if I watch an anime once, I'm done. I'm good with that. I put it into the books. I don't need the.
Same.
It's weird. It's because it, like movies, I can watch and watch over again, or like watch once a year. But there's no anime that I like. I gotta watch it twice. I gotta understand and enjoy it. And I'm sure if I looked around, I could find something that I enjoyed, like in terms of anime. But I could say my first one. The first one I watched twice because I watched it again with my wife. And that is Earn High Host Club. That was ye olde, like it was old enough that it was a 4:3 ratio. That's how old it was. So,
Okay.
that was another good one. So, I like anime. And yes, the Vita is a fantastic system
Awesome,
to
great.
watch and play Persona 4 Golden.
Moving on. I did have one question, actually. I had a couple here, but they were all video game related. But one I have that's not is what is your top bucket list activity? So something you definitely want to do before you go.
I always wanted to either write a book or make a small-time indie Flash game.
Ooh.
Or at
I
least
like
be
it.
a part of a project that was part of it. Like, if it was not story design, artistic design, something along that sense. But like there was obviously you guys know about some of my writing adventures with particular topics. I during the I think it's called NaNoWriMo or something like that.
NaNoWriMo, yep.
Which is coming up in a couple of months. I had participated into that, and I got about 2/3 of the way into writing a full-size novel. I was about 150, 200 pages into it. And I just stopped one day because I hit writer's block. I pushed it off for a day, pushed it off for a week, and before I knew it, I just stopped writing. And it's just sitting there. Like I could work on it. I don't even know if it's good, but it was funny in my head, anyways.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. It was about it's this idea about a kid who was 18 trying to get his truck driving license, and he lived with his uncle Bucky or something like that, or some crap, who was a notorious truck driver. When outlaw, he was forced to retire and all that stuff.
Notorious truck driving outlaw. I love it.
I think his final stunt was to launch a ramp over the Grand Canyon with a trailer full of chickens to give him lift.
Oh no.
And somebody stole his truck, his uncle's truck, and so he chased after him in his own truck, got stuck in a blizzard, and then eventually got transported into some Chronicles of Narnia level world where truck drivers were a legendary race that had been eradicated.
Oh my god.
This very much reminds me of, for whatever reason, Brutal Legend. Very strong.
Okay, all right. Put Jack Black on this.
All right.
And like the last thing I remember was there was a kingdom, the Frozen Kingdom, that needed the Frozen Heart to stay cold because the structure was made out of ice. It was slowly melting, and somebody had stolen it. And the kingdom I arrived at, or the kid arrived at,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, no, self-insert. Needed to bring the Telltale, they're like, we need a truck driver to bring this load back to them one last time. And so, I travel across this world with this giant artifact called the Frozen Heart. And like the princess of the castle, wanted to get out of the castle and find a new life. And so I have like this elven princess driving with this kid who, barely knows how to drive a truck. And it was wild. It was interesting. It turned into Adventure Time, I think, at one point.
We need more truck driving anime.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Cute girls driving trucks when.
Oh man.
Ooh.
There's a couple of pictures left. They're like, oh, thank you for breaking the stereotype. That's nice.
Favorite flavor Doritos?
I don't eat potato chips, actually.
Nice.
I actively
which is-
avoid it. What
you fall into my trap because Doritos are corn chips, I think.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Chips in general.
Okay, that's fair.
Now, granted, I'm fat, so it's not like I'm going to turn down eating pizza and all that stuff. But I hated chips in general because they offer the same amount of calories for something that I will barely never get full on. So it's like, why would I eat this bag of chips if I'm not going to feel even remotely full, and it has almost the same calories as like say a thing of bread?
Exactly.
It was wasteful. It felt silly, so I never ate.
I was just gonna judge you if you said something like dill pickle or like Cool Ranch, because
I mean, if there's
to be
a like
honest,
a wild chip, like the chicken and then waffle chip from
I need
Lay's or
that.
something
I need
Oh
that.
yeah, I tried it.
Or like a buffalo chicken chip.
I have
like
Doritos once a year on E3, and I get the sweet chili ones.
Of course you do, because that's the only ones you should be getting.
Yeah.
They're spicy and they're
Exactly.
sweet, and then you can lick your fingers after,
Mhm.
like that, all that spice dusting, flavor dusting.
The best.
There's like a kind of chip, I guess, but I don't remember what it's called, like Takis or something like that.
Oh, Takis. Yeah, those are around
Takis,
here
yeah.
all of a sudden. I feel like they've come up recently.
I think it's because of Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
There was an episode where all they were talking about was tuna and Takis or something like that. Yeah,
Tuna, jeez.
something like that.
They got a brand of it called Fuego, which it's essentially like some kind of spicy thing. And
Right.
Amanda will bring those home, and one dark night, I'll look at them like, I could try these. I could eat these. But if there's a bag of potato chips, no, you won't catch me near them. My dog would eat them sooner before I do.
All right. So, my last question. Are you ready for this?
Yes, hit me.
This is a question that I always determined whether a person would be a good fit for our team or not.
No.
100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck? Why?
That's wow.
That's a powerful question there.
Mind you, we were a student volunteer organization that did like tech support, and so this has no relation to the question whatsoever. But it was an important question nonetheless.
Yeah.
So I'll repeat again for everybody. If you had to choose, would you choose between 100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck?
For what? What's the goal?
You had to fight, you had to eat, whatever. If you had
Okay.
to choose.
Well, in my head, and this can actually help show you my motivations behind this question or answering it, I would say 100 duck-sized horses. This is probably where I'd get fired. The reason being is it's technically like possible to have a very large duck, maybe not the size of a horse, but you will never see a horse that's the size of a duck. Like ponies, might be pushing it, but not like tiny Barbie size and whatnot. And having 100 of those could be a lot more valuable than just having a very large goose.
You can sell them. I see.
Yes, I could sell them. So I'm greedy. Whereas if I had a horse-sized duck, I'm afraid of gooses in general. So if I had one that's could kill me, like a velociraptor that's in the shape, I was like, no, I don't want that. That's too dangerous.
I think that's why I'd choose the horse-sized duck, because it is an unkillable death machine, is what it is. And you could try and use it as a mount, but it's gonna eat your throat. So it's pretty hardcore.
So we threw in a bunch of these questions because we just wanted to see how people thought, or like their thought process. And so the original question was, if you had to fight, which one would you pick, right? And so a horse-sized duck, but we didn't care too much whether people got it right or not, because a horse-sized duck would be so big and it'd be so heavy that its legs would just be crushed by its own body weight, so it wouldn't be able to move.
What if they scale up?
Easier to fight.
What if they scale up?
See, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
if it actually scaled up, but
well, it'd have to.
If the anatomy stayed relatively the same, it'd be an easy win. But
I feel like I would still have better luck if the duck was able to stay structurally integrant. I feel like I'd still have much better with 100 duck-sized horses.
100%. You can just run away a lot easier.
Yeah. Plus, not to mention, they're not like ducks; they can't fly up and attack your jugular.
Exactly.
So you could just stomp them. You can just stomp them, kick them. Yeah, they're at foot level. You're pretty good for that.
I mean, their biggest thing was the strength of their hind kicks, and the hooves at that size. I mean, they might hurt the shins or whatnot, but honestly, like the worst they could do is knock me over. And I feel like
if you go to the ground, that's dangerous though. So
it would be dangerous. Like this is Indian the cupboard level stuff. I might get tied down.
Achilles tendon.
Jesus, is this what you think horses do?
This is like
they naturally know to go for the jugular.
Like Attack on Titan simulation. Right now.
Oh, geez, the back of the neck.
That's it for me. Tyler, is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to say?
Oh yeah, do you want me to start asking more questions to cover the last 2 minutes?
I have a final question if you want one as well. So sure. I had mostly video game related questions, like I said, and let me ask you this: what game series can you absolutely not stand, bar none, and one that actually disgusts you to think about? So like it's one where like you see fans of it and are angered by that.
Ooh, no, we're talking about just irrationally or just
irrationally, just the most like visceral.
Ooh. Let's see, a game series that people love so much that I like, it just annoys me because like, why would they love a game series like that?
Its existence annoys you. That's what I'm looking for.
Ooh, that's a very good question. I wish you would have given it to me like halfway through or something. I'm not a big fan of Animal Crossing. The fact that people love that to no end kind of annoys me because it's like they get their undying love for a 200-hour game where they do all of 8 things, and one of them, 80% of the time, it's fishing. It's like, let's see. That's a very good question. I'm trying to think of a game that I just simply do not like. I mean, easy ones would be like, Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatnot. But I'm not actively upset with bros and all that stuff. They got their own culture.
Mm-hmm. What we're looking for is like the one where you see it at E3 and you're like, ugh, like just ugh.
What is a game that I just like? It's actually starting to turn towards Kingdom Hearts at this rate. The more I look at it, like I feel like I'm gonna review it and hate it at this point. Like it's gotten so bad that I've turned to a podcast to help me recap about everything. But even they admitted about halfway through in the thing, it's like I'm afraid that if I'm gonna recap this so much, I'm gonna realize I hate this game. And I'm like, I relate to this guy, and you're supposed to be my therapist to get me into Kingdom Hearts again. Let's see. Pretty much any MOBA game.
There you go. All right.
Like I'm gonna say, League of Legends. I try to turn a blind eye to because my friends all play it. But anybody that talks about how much they love Dota 2 or talks about HOTS or anything like that,
I see. Biased. He's biased.
I'm completely biased. Anybody? Oh, I can keep going further with this now that I realize it. Anybody that starts talking about their flavor of the month MMO, people like, oh, I'm playing Guild Wars 2 for the next 2 months. You should join us. I'm like, you're just gonna leave as soon as I catch up to you guys. It's like, no. I don't want to talk or hear about this game.
Funny you mentioned Guild Wars 2 because that exactly happened to me when it came out. I just got into college when it came out, and it was first semester, and everyone I had a gamer identity hall, and everyone got Guild Wars 2, and they're like, Cam, get it. And I'm like, no, because you're going to drop it in a month and a half. I won't get it. I'm not going to spend $60 for that. That exact game, that exact reason.
For me, it was Final Fantasy 14. I had gotten it. My best friend, who was my roommate at the time, was playing with another friend. And he was like, you got to catch up, buy it for the PlayStation 4 and we'll play it with you on PC. Also, fantastic example of how PS4 and PC can work together. Final Fantasy 14, it's cross-compatible.
Yep.
Ridiculous. But I'm trying to catch up to them. There are loads ahead of me. Like, I'm going to have to put at least 100 hours to catch up to where they're at with all the new expansions. And I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to catch up to them. Because I was like, well, Brandon doesn't play all that much. I go up there one day because he took the hammer and left it up there. I look at his computer, and he has a program that's botting Final Fantasy 14 for him. I'm like, you got to. How am I supposed to catch up to you if you're still playing while you're at work? And it's like, So I gave up on that almost immediately. And I was like, you got your own way. If you're not going to wait for me, man, that's fine. But I can't, keep up with you like this if you're going to be a 24/7 monster machine at me.
Yeah.
So, What's up?
What's up?
I think that's about it.
You all set?
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't vote for Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm glad you put that out there. Yeah. Okay. I agree with that sentiment. Thank you very much for answering these questions, Tyler. You're free to go now.
Thank you.
We're just gonna unbind these shackles, get these chains off you. I'm sure you have a long day ahead of you.
Don't worry about those organs. You have doubles. So.
Yeah, don't worry about.
I got 2 kidneys. I can work without one.
Sure. Okay. We'll let you think you have 2 kidneys for now. Just talk to Hilda on the way. Talk to Hilda on the way out. She'll get you set up with some food, and then you'll be good to go. Yeah.
Why am I pale? I got stitches, man.
Hilda will set you up with the cookie. Don't worry about it.
Everything hurts.
All sweet. Yep, sweet and good.
Okay. I guess that's it then, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
This was the casual interview of Tyler Vitito because my accent generally prevents me from saying it properly.
There you go.
Thank you very much for listening. Tyler, do you want to do the wrap-ups and plugins because I generally tend to forget them?
Sure. Nick can be found at LR Warrior 11.
Yeah, okay, I can remember that. You can find me on Twitter at LR Warrior 11 and on Twitch at twitch.tv/LR Warrior 11. Cam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Cam Collects and twitch.tv/Cam Collects.
And you can find me at 2x Tyler. I was just making a joke, but I guess we could do that for the side quest. I'll tell you about my information on the
I can't even remember what happened on my anyways.
Well, because halfway through my power cut out, and so I disappeared. That was one thing that happened.
All right, fair enough. All right, we'll see you guys on the main show next week, okay? All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.